Okay, all right. Well, here we're sitting with Michaeline, and you just saw Aunt Franny, or depending on how we're structuring this, Aunt Franny from earlier. So Michaeline. When Johann Russek, R-U-S-C-K, came over initially from Poland, prior to these 14 children, he had gotten married and had two children, and those children were
Genevieve and Mary.
and Genevieve we refer to as Aunt Jen.
Genevieve.
Genevieve. Okay.
Right.
So Genevieve and Mary, and then Pop had married Paris, and that was this group here. So let's talk a little bit about Genevieve and Mary, and then also on this film you saw, or you haven't, it will be coming up, which is from Mary, the Frankovic family, right? So Michael was at the reunion. Hi, Mike. And then that family side, but Genevieve is represented. That trunk of or branch of the tree is represented by you, right?
Right.
So,
exactly.
So let me hand that over to you, and maybe if you want to take us through that. Here's a picture. I guess this is a view, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
take that one there. So if you could hold that up, and we'll.
Sure. I really can't remember too much of my mother's life in Middleport. Before she got married, she married my father, Reverend Michael Cronenberg, who was pastor in Utica, New York. And she had moved there, and she had me. And then, I guess when I was about 5 years old, my father took a parish in Middleport. And he passed away in 1952. And my mother just raised me in Middleport.
The parish in Middleport was the Middleport Church, or
St. Joseph's.
Oh, it was. Oh, so
Yeah.
he took a position at
He
St.
took
Joseph's.
Yes,
Oh,
until he became ill.
okay.
And then he had passed away. What else can I say? And so then my mother raised me. She worked in the factory. She was a zipper setter in the factory.
And the factory is up on the hill in Middleport?
Yeah, for a time she worked there, but she also worked in state manufacturing in New Philadelphia. And she was organist in the Hazelton Polish National Catholic parish, which the name eludes me, but also in McAdoo. She was organist in both of those churches. And she was organist in both of those churches until, she was in her 70s. And in her late 70s, she had a stroke and she came to live with us for 7 years until her death in 1995.
Okay. And with you here is your husband,
And
David?
this is my husband, David. Yeah.
And you had met, so I would suggest that this was my earliest memory of like one of the musical trunks of the tree, if you will.
Right.
So, because Jenny is where I had gotten piano lessons from.
Yeah.
My brother and I had gotten piano lessons, but she was an organist. But then that skill set totally manifested in your background, and that's how you met your husband, David, right?
Exactly. I was a student at the Combs College of Music in Mount Airy. Dave was a student at Philadelphia Musical Academy in downtown in the city in Philadelphia. And we met at the Academy of Music. Both of our choruses were singing for the opera.
Pennsylvania Ballet.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, Ballet Carmina Burana. So that's how
Very
we
nice.
met. And well, we got married, had 2 children. Dave started to teach in Pine Grove. I set up a studio, started to private teach, which I'm still doing till this day. We had 2 children, Michael and Jessica.
And here's a picture of Michael. I know these are older photos, but up on top there is
Yeah.
Michael.
And Jessica. And Michael has a degree from Kutztown University in art. And he now owns his own shop. He's a tattoo artist. He owns his own building. Jessica is a chef. She graduated from Pennsylvania Culinary in Pittsburgh. And she does home chefing for people who don't want to cook for themselves. And she also teaches yoga. So
Very
that's
nice.
pretty much the story.
And then you've got, just to fill in that side of, so your mom, Genevieve, was a true sister to Mary here,
To
right?
Mary.
Right, which is Mike Frankovic's
Oh,
grandmother,
yeah.
right? So that's Mary, Mary Russek, who lives in California. So the Frankovic side, again, Michael had talked, on this film, and then as well as your cousin, who is Michael's mom,
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, all right. I know Mary Jane was not able to make the reunion, but maybe if you can give some quick memories of Mary Jane and her background.
Oh my goodness.
And say hi, Mary Jane.
Hi, Mary Jane. I when I was growing up, she was just my idol. I just thought, she was everything. She was Miss Philadelphia.
She was Miss Philadelphia.
She was Miss Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, 1950 something or other. She, Miss Longhorn Speedway. She just had a lot of titles, and she was my idol. And what I remember is that no matter where she went, she always sent postcards. Always sent a lot of postcards, and I kept them all. And I still, to this day, have an album of all her pictures. So, yeah.
Wow. And so Mary Jane then moved to California,
Right.
because she was in some TV shows and movies, I think.
She had a part in My Fair Lady, 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I can't.
Funny
Funny
Girl?
Girl.
Okay.
Funny Girl. Right.
All right.
Yeah, she.
And also, if memory serves, I remember hearing along the way she was in the Frankie's Family Affair, or one of the TV shows.
Oh,
So
okay.
Sissy's friend, but so and she was, very helpful when my brother passed away in California. So she was very helpful during that time when he was out there. So that was, your cousin, which would have been the origination of that, the first branch of the family tree relative to Pop coming from Poland, which was Genevieve, your mom. Genevieve was the first child of Johann Russek, John
Right.
Russek, right? So the first child, and the second child was Mary,
Right.
which was Mary Jane's mom.
Right.
Right, and then we started with the second kind of batch of the tree. So what would you say your favorite moment or most interesting moment of being a Russek is?
Early on, I can remember Grandma cleaning a chicken, and
The
she would,
grandma Mary.
Baba.
Oh, Baba.
Baba.
Okay, right.
That would be, yeah, Johann's
Okay.
second wife.
Okay.
Um,
Cleaning a chicken where? Up in Middleport? At the
yeah,
Middleport
I
house?
remember her at the sink, and she would take out the vocal cords and blowing the vocal cords and make a chicken sound. I can remember sitting at the table eating apple butter. Apple butter, I think, was a big thing. I can remember playing a lot with Dennis and George.
So Dennis and George Kochmar.
Kochmar.
Okay.
They were lived in Middleport when I was very young. And I can remember one time Dennis and I digging in that hill that's kind of to the back of the house,
Mm-hmm.
but we thought we were going to dig to China.
So Dennis and George, Dennis now is down in North Carolina.
Oh, is
I believe.
he? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So we will talk a little bit about his side of the family. We didn't get a chance to have any of them up at the reunion. And George is down in South Carolina, right?
South Carolina.
Columbia.
Columbia,
Then,
yeah.
that's George.
George. Okay. Well, that's an interesting memory with the chicken.
Yeah,
you think
I
seeing
remember
the vocal cords, did that like
Snaps.
spawn your interest in
No.
being a vocalist? It could
Oh,
it
I
be?
don't know. I could see myself standing at the sink and she's
Right.
cleaning the chicken and she takes this and blows on it and it makes it sound like a chicken.
That's funny. Now, so there were, from my memory or from what we have in pictures, there are at least 3 iterations of the house. Okay, from memory. When we had the reunion, Joe Check was there, who was very helpful and thanks for coming. The explaining kind of different versions of the house. So the house was there as a hotel in Middleport, and John bought it and acquired it in 1919, which is the reason we had a 100-year anniversary. But prior to that, it was a hotel, which is a lot of people used it as a stopway between Tamaqua and Pottsville, including folks like from the Molly Maguires, like Jack Heho apparently stayed at the house. But so when you refer to the house, okay, which version of the house was that? Because there's current day home. There was a version when I lived and I grew up in the house. But prior to that, there was like the original house, and I hear stories from Joe Check where the entrance to the house was on the right-hand side, right? When you're looking at the house, and you walked into, like, the piano room was in the second floor, right? So was the kitchen on the basement, or was the kitchen on the second floor?
No, the kitchen was in the basement.
Oh, the kitchen was in the basement.
Was in the
Okay.
basement.
All right.
And when I was growing up, I remember to the back of the kitchen, and then to the right there was a bathroom at that time. I think it was just a commode and maybe a shower, but I'm not sure. But that's what I remember. I remember that kitchen on that. You just walked right in, and the kitchen was there.
Okay. And there was a piano somewhere in the house, right? Or Johnny's violin, we hear, might have been floating around, possibly?
I don't remember the
No?
piano.
Okay.
I do remember the piano because George and Dennis.
Okay,
And
George and Dennis again.
There's
They're
George
the
and
mischievous.
Dennis. We used to go, oh yes, that was upstairs. There were 2 rooms. You walked up the steps, and if you went to your left, there were 2 rooms. But if you went to your right, I think there was the music room and the bedroom. So it was at the music room, and the piano was there. And I remember telling Dennis, "You have a hole in your shirt," and he said, "That's air conditioning."
So even back then, Dennis was
Yeah,
quite
the comedian.
comedian.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah.
So now Dennis is that might be we'll come back to Dennis in a second. But so any other memories, any thoughts that really jump out at you outside? Any pets? You remember the bees? Do you remember?
I remember the bees.
Okay.
I remember the bees. I remember seeing the oven.
The brown oven, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember watching Bandstand with Joni and Hetty when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, interesting. American Bandstand.
American Bandstand with Bob somebody.
Okay, before Dick Clark.
Bob Horn.
Bob Horn.
And
right,
he
before
had
Dick Clark.
a sidekick. And Hetty or Johnny don't remember. But his name was Lee, and I can't think of his last name. But they used to have that when they opened up with the little monkeys playing the drums.
So this would mean that meant that there was a television at one point up in Middleport.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
What year did the television get put into Middleport?
I think it was probably about 1951.
Okay, all right.
That's my earliest recollection.
Oh, interesting. And it was Rabbit Ears television, right? The
I
original.
believe so, yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I guess
1951.
it would have
Was
been.
there a radio before that, or
Yes,
was there a radio?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I remember the dog that they had when Grandpa had passed away.
Which was about 57, I think, right?
No, he was earlier 50s.
Oh, early
Passed away
50s?
earlier
Okay, all right.
50s. I can't remember the name of the dog. Brownie?
Brownie. Yeah. Yep. There was a Brownie. I
Okay.
remember Brownie.
It was Brownie. And I remember Grandpa being laid out in the casket, and they had everything they could do to keep Brownie contained
Oh.
because
So the casket was laid out in Middleport.
it was laid out in the second floor. It was like a double living room or something.
Okay. All right. I was
Yeah,
not
that's
aware of
it.
this. Okay. So when he
Yeah.
passed away, his casket was laid out in,
In the
the second
house.
floor in
the
Middleport
house, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And Brownie, always the faithful
Oh,
Pooch, wanted to come in and visit Pop and
they had everything they could do to keep him contained.
okay.
Yeah. So
And Pop passed away up in the hospital in Pottsville, right?
Right.
The Miners Hospital.
right. Grandpa died from minor asthma.
Okay.
And minor asthma.
Okay.
Yeah.
But lots of good positive memories.
All right, so I'm Mike Frankovich. I'm Mary Mangler's grandson. So we come from that part of the family. So she was the second born of the Russek children. So I don't know what else really to say. Just go into the favorite memory. Okay, favorite memory. I'm going to say, there was two family reunions back in the 90s. There was one in 93 in Virginia Beach, one in 98 in the Poconos. Well, those were a lot of fun. I mean, I really didn't know everyone in the family at that point. Some people, since I live out in California, some of the members of the family would actually come out to California. I'd see them then, and when you're growing up and you're a kid, you just forget who everybody is and how they fit into the picture. Maybe you're just not as concerned at that point in your life. But after the family reunions, I really got to know more of the family and David and his father Tony and everyone like that. So I mean, kind of favorite memory I would say would be definitely the family reunions from the 90s.
My name is Eric, and I'm also a grandson of Mary and Julia Mangler. I didn't actually know that until late last year. I did an ancestry test and discovered a bunch of relatives that I didn't know I had. And then next thing you know, I'm getting an invite to the Russek family reunion, so I'm very grateful to be here. And the prospect of being a small part of a very, very large family is very is awesome to me, and I just wish I'd found you guys sooner.
So I mean, I could talk about our branch of the tree and who's in it. So Mary Julia Russek, she married Raymond Mangler. They had 3 children. So they had Raymond Mangler Jr., they had Richard Mangler, and Mary Jane Mangler. Mary Jane is actually my mother. So that was kind of that part of the tree. With my mother, Mary Jane Mangler, she had me as well as my sister Tara. I've got one daughter.
I'm Ava.
So,
Yes. I'm Ava. This is my dad. We live in LA, Pasadena, and I'm a lefty. I like to collect things, as in fluffy things and stuffed animals, and I really like to do art and play video games, so that's basically all about me. And our memories, or my memories from this family so far, I'm only 9 years old, they have been great. Christmas, all those holidays, Thanksgiving, they're really fun, and I love this family.
I think everyone in the Russek family has they just have a really good attitude towards life. Everyone's got personality, I remember the '93 reunion, which you weren't at because you weren't born yet. But I remember everyone just getting drunk. They were playing polka music, and everyone wound up jumping in the pool with all their clothes on. I mean, that's a Russek family reunion.
Wow.
They're wild, but very nice, and I'm glad to be a Russek, really.
Hi, I am Richard Pedro, great-grandson of Ann Russek.
And I am Stephen Thompson. I'm Richard's cousin, and we are both, this gentleman over here, his grandkids.
And I am Kathy Check. I am one of the daughters of Joseph Check, and Ann Russek was my grandmother. Go ahead, Dad.
Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you about I had 7 kids. Okay, with me and my wife, of course. It wasn't all me. Okay, and you wanted to talk about the house. Well, if you look out, we'll take this house before it was rebuilt or before it was built again. The dump trucks used to get back down right off the breaker. They would go up that side, come down right by the house here, and we'd drop papers off here at the house, and then they go on down the hill. That was when it was a dirt road. It was waxed in like it is right now, which is different. And if you came into the house, you had the 2 doors at the front here. And one side was, we'll call it the dining room side. That's where Grandma did her work a little bit, and on the right side there was a wall there and a door to go in naturally, but on the right side, or on this side here, the left side would have been as you face it, was the kitchen side. And if you looked on the kitchen side, on the left was a sink. Fresh spring water would automatically come in off the hill up here, okay? Into a pipe. Fresh spring water, always fresh. Cold water, one thing. You want water, that's what you got. Beautiful. And right beyond that was the window there, and right beyond that, facing back this way, was the coal stove. And that's the coal stove that actually had a hot water jacket on the back of it. And if you went back into the cellar, that's where, first of all, I'll talk about, you went straight back into the cellar, and if you made the right, that's where we had a toilet there for Grandpa, because he was, and Grandma, of course, so they wouldn't have to go out to the outhouses. And we also had a little coal bin back there of some things we had, okay? But if you come back this way, if you look straight back in, on the back wall there, and that's through the other room, back to the back wall, with what people call them refrigerators now. We call them ice boxes, which they really were. An ice box. The guy comes once or twice a week, the guy comes and delivers a big block of ice and put it on the right-hand top of it. And so you didn't need electric. It was that simple. And it kept everything cold pretty good. And it was a pretty long one. I'd say it was about 7 to 8 foot long at least, maybe more. And if you come back this way again, right in front of that is where all the kids and everybody used to take their baths in wooden tubs. Okay? We would hang our feet over the wooden tubs. Now, this just wasn't us. Tony did it too, let's face it, but feet hung over the wooden tub. And with Grandma watching and making sure that everything was okay, the older girls would be charged with actually taking and putting hot water in for us, which come off the stove and off the water jacket, back of the stove. And we're pouring in on us. So here you are washing up like this, your feet hanging over, you're soaping all down, and Grandma was watching it all. And which was normal for us. Everything was normal. As you tell the girls, more there. So the girls would come in with their buckets, put the water in, etc., etc. And that was how we got our baths once a week, which I thought was pretty good. At that stage, anyway. And if you come back out through there, and you went back out, just the kitchen there is where we used to have our breakfast of oatmeal usually, and eggs, etc. Now you made your toast, and how you made your toast was over the coal stove. Not like today's. We didn't have electric like that for the toaster. We didn't have them things. Be 2 wire pieces, which was we'd make our toast. We'd open up one of the coal stove entries, we'll call them. It depends how black you wanted your toast or how you wanted it. You would put it over top of it. Now, Grandma used to do a lot of that stuff, but then a lot of it you had to do yourself too. She was showing you, teaching you what to do. And if you come back out, that was for our breakfast stuff. And if you come back out and went back into the dining room, and this I'll mention is where Bishop Fudor had come in a few times. I recall him coming in. He was the bishop down here for Polish National Catholic Church. He's the one that had the Scranton area, and he's also the one that used to come visit Grandpa Life. They were kind of close, I think, kind of friends. And she went in there, like I said, that's where Grandma did her work on her little roll-top desk. Anything she wanted hid, she knew where she's going to hide it. Nobody could. But that's where if somebody passed away or something, they were usually laid there. And we had our big dining room table in there, which was nice. And that's where the last picture we took at 44, I think it was 44, but Tony was in the service. And I'm standing there, and of course my grandpa had to take me out of the picture. He said, no, I said, this is just for his children. And he explained it to me in Polish and in American, etc. Well, no problem, I'm right there. So everybody was in the picture that time, if I believe. Now, I'm trying to think of names, I get messed up now. My aunt Genevieve, which was a Tukos, actually, from the Tukos side. That was my grandpa's first wife. She wasn't in that picture. She was only 12 in the picture, number 14. And my Aunt Mary, which I love them all. They're great. And anyway, when you get back in there, you'll see that's where, I'll tell you a couple funny things about that if you want to. To me, they're funny anyway, at that time. That's where little Joe, I call him little Joe at that time, was Joe Russek, which really was look, but we're so close, we're like brothers and sisters. Between Jadwiga, I'll call it, whether she likes it or not, ha ha ha, I'm going to say it, which was her name in Polish, okay? That's what grandfather used to call her sometimes when he got mad, okay? But anyway, and then there was Joe, Jody, and me. Now we slept upstairs in the bedroom right at the top of the steps as we came in, and we slept on the right side. Me and Joe's bed was here, the double bed, and
Over here, baby, over here.
Hetty, instead of Jan Big called, Hetty was on this side along with Jody. If there was any shenanigans going on or any problems, Grandma, which was right in the next bedroom, would be up in the jiffy. And she'd be there, Well, we knew what was going on. We didn't say nothing, of course. But on the comical end, I'll say it, when one day when I went in there, Joe was running around the table, he just pooped his pants. Okay? Every kid does this at every stage in life. There's no problem with that. We all know that. But to me at that time, ha ha ha. His grandpop had his big razor belt. He was chasing him. He never caught him, but he was chasing around the table. And Joe was going like crazy. So to us, it was funny at that time. Of course, I kind of held it in a little bit, you know. So that was the funny part. But then in that same room there, I'll call him Old Steve. Now, he used to work with the family. And he lived in one of the shacks. We had 2 shacks out here, one and then another one on the other side of the first. And I call them shacks, but in reality were like big bedrooms with coal stoves and little stoves in and whatnot for warmth and stuff. And I didn't realize when Steve was just laying there. Well, to me, he's just laying there. I got hold of his toe, and I'm saying, "Hey, get up, Steve, I want to play." You know, get up. I'm pulling on his toe, I'm jerking on his toe, and how come he's not moving? Well, I'll tell you why. Grandma come in the room and says, "No, he's not with us anymore. He's gone." Okay, he passed or he died. Whatever she told me, I never words in Polish it was, of course, and that's what it was about. And I'm trying to play with him. I called him Old Steve, but he's only in his 40s. That's all he was, a young guy, really. But to me at that time, he was an older guy. But that's just coming to some of the funnier things that kind of happened. It was crazy. That's all I can tell you. And you'd have to be there to understand it. It's that simple. But you'd also have to realize, and I try to make everybody understand 2 things. At that stage of life during that period of time, people, it was about family. They took care of each other, and your mom and pop, your grandpop and grandma, they did everything they could to take care of their families, no matter what it was. Nothing was unheard of. Of course, I can go further a lot of things Grandma did, but I won't at this time until maybe some of the family don't like to hear it. But Grandma was quite a gal, let me tell you. And so was Grandpa. I can tell you that much. To me, they're the most beautiful people in the world. They took care of their family in all things. And Tony, to me, was like an older brother. When we went out somewhere and did anything, whether it was to have a local drink down here, we didn't really drink. We just kind of lipped it and put it down. It was always for him business. That's what my grandfather taught him. And that's what Tony got from that. And that's the way Tony was. He was business. Oh, he had good times too, but not like today's guys do with a lot of drinking and stuff. He may have changed, but I don't think so. Tony was Tony. He worked his butt off. And it's always for family, is what it was for. I can't think of anything else you want to hear or know or.
That's good.
Pretty good.
Anyone else want to tell some memories?
Well, to speak, of course, I'm Kathy, one of Joe's daughters. My dad and mom had 7 kids. I am the only one here today, but we have 6 others. And it's the same way in our family. Mom and dad, always there for us, taking care of us. And for us, it's all about family too, spending time together, having fun. I'm at my dad's every weekend, and anybody else who lives close is usually there every weekend, having a good time and fun. And this is the first time I've been to this house, but I have heard some of the stories here. And it's interesting to see because Dad can point things out and show us where things used to be and what he used to do. And so it's nice to see the place associated with the story. And just to meet people that I've never met before, or maybe I did when I was a child, and I don't really remember them. So it's been good to connect, and I wish more of our family had been able to attend today. on our side. But we'll have these pictures and a video, and we can tell them about it. And but it was good to be here today. And
Absolutely.
These are two of my nephews here.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
second
mention
that.
something? I forgot to mention something. As you come into the house, beside the dining room being there, a little bit beyond that is where the steps were going upstairs.
That's right.
And that's where I was telling you, we had our beds at the right side, and Grandma and Grandpa's bedroom was right there, next to ours. Naturally, they could always watch. Well, on the left side, if you went in that door through that way, that was our music room. That's what we called it, our music room. That's where we sang. Joe Russek now. That's, like I said, he's really my uncle, but like we're like the same area there, so we're like the same kids. And he would play the accordion if he could. You start to learn all that stuff, a lot of stuff there. At the piano. We had a player piano. It was a player piano. You don't see him anymore today. That's what was up there. So that's what we would do. And a lot of days we'd go up there and do them things and just sing and you name it. Just do it. And when Tony would come home, and then when Tony would be around, we'd always talk about Valerie, which was his girlfriend at the time, in a sense, was the priest daughter down here in Middleport, St. Joe's. So we'd always get on them and say, hey, Tony loves Valerie, and stuff like that. You know how kids get. That's why we thought it was funny at the time. And Tony would say, oh, stop that. Nothing real serious, though. It was good stuff, real good stuff. And like I say, Tony was a great guy. That's all I can say. To me, he was like an older brother. Because when I went with Tony, it was just like an older brother. It was that simple. And he would show you what he was doing, why he was doing it, just like you're running a business. It was really good. And of course, in front of that music room was a little parlor was up there. It was set up. Basically, it was for my grandma and grandpa, really. They had the couch in there. Of course, I remember the ashtray. There was an ashtray up there with a tire on it. You don't see them today. I forget what that was said, but an ashtray with a tire after it. And to me, it's a great, not only great memories, just growing up. And during that period of time, again, you have to understand, people took care of their families any way they could. No matter what they had to do, they did it. And I don't see a lot of that today in today's world. I don't see a lot of that. Some I see, but not a lot. Where you can take your family and say, come here, come off the street, do whatever you want. Don't worry about it. Somehow we'll work it out. No matter what it is, it's all we'll work out. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to jump in on you. Go ahead.
It's good. I just want to say I second everything Kathy had to say. And, it's about family, love, being together, having a good time. And I'm glad to be here. I think David has done a great job, and his wife, of setting this all up. And I know nobody does anything alone. That's what family is about. So.
Yeah, and I would have to reinforce that. So again, I'm Steve Thompson and grandson of Joseph Czech, and I mean, when I think of fond memories, what comes to my mind is just family in general. And growing up as grandson of Joe Czech, I mean, he comes from the Russek side, but I don't really have any experience of being a Russek or even really maybe not knowing what that means growing up. But when I think of fond memories, I mean, from the Czech side, which comes from, the Russeks, for me, I mean, every holiday that we have, we get together as a family. Every Halloween, we throw a big Halloween party and we have fun. It's always, a big mystery of who's going to come dressed up as what. And, if somebody has a mask on, who's that? And, waiting for the family to come from, all the way up in Massachusetts, and excited when, distant family members come, and always being excited just to spend time together, playing games together, just having a good time. And I would definitely have to say that, all of us are different in our own ways, but every time that we get together as a family, none of it matters. Their differences don't matter, and we're always happy to see each other and just happy to have a good time. And we do stuff for each other and support each other. And I have to say, not being a Russek, being a Russek, but not having the name or knowing any of the people here, for coming here for the first time and meeting everybody, I feel like I've known these people all my life. Like my and Kathy said, I can connect with people out here and really feel like part of the family, and I feel like a Russek now. I really enjoy being able to see the house and hear the stories and from my grandfather about when he was a boy and throwing apple cores at beehives.
Yeah, you gotta tell that one, Grandpa.
And then him telling us that story on the way up here, and then as soon as we get up here, family members that set this up said the same exact thing mentioned about the bees, and without them telling each other and having them tell almost the same story. It's it's cool to see that.
Yeah.
So everything is about family, and I feel like a Russek now. So.
Okay, so we're here representing the John Russek portion of the family. My father was also John Russek, who was son of John, and here we have Dottie Russek. She had myself, my sister Kathy, and my brother Ralph, and we.
You have to say John was the firstborn son of the Russeks.
Okay. And we actually have 3 generations represented. We have Dottie, and we have Kathy, who's my sister, and then we have Sarah, who is Kathy's daughter. And we actually we could have had a 4th generation here, Chrissy, who is also Kathy's daughter, but she is in Texas right now with her children and unfortunately couldn't make it. We also have my daughter Alyssa, so she's also 3rd generation down from John.
And we had a famous Russek tradition of a happy birthday song that we would sing, and if you would like a sample.
Oh yeah, let's
What are we gonna do?
Okay,
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Kind of like row, row, row your boat, but not even coordinated in one bit.
So that was the traditional birthday song at everyone's birthday.
And everybody was completely embarrassed when we'd sing it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm John Ralph. The story, the memory I'd like to share is on this property. Dad, John, used to bring me out, and we used to wash the car down next to the barn. And I just found out from Carl that that was actually a very popular car wash location because the water was not on the meter. They bypassed the meter with the well, and so it was a very popular car wash spot, but it was a nice memory for me. And the other was there used to be an outhouse on the property. I thought it was down there. Carl's telling me it was up here. But the memory I have, which will always be with me, is it was the first, and I'd have to say the only time I was introduced to pornography. There were Playboy magazines in this outhouse, and I was shocked, and it has affected me for life. But yes, in Uncle Tony's outhouse, there were some magazines in there, and I'm not sure if Chris, the mom, knew about this, but I thought I would share that memory.
Have a couple minutes?
I don't know what it means to be Russek yet. I'm learning. Truly blessed. It's amazing.
Hello, I'm Eddie Russek. This is my wife Christine, nicknamed Pixie, my daughter Mary Teresa, and significant other. Look forward to being part of our family extended. Great man, Brett Newton. Today is July 20, 2019. Family reunion is very significant because it's an opportunity for people to come together. I believe it's very significant to people who aren't here for whatever reason. With regards to my family, my older brother Frank and younger brother Stanley are not here. Our mother died in 1952, June 18, 2 days before her 30th birthday. When she died, the oldest sister in the family, born to John Russek and his second wife, Mary, the oldest sister, Antoinette, who was born in 1915, came to live with us following her death in 1952, and for the next 4.5 years was my mother, Frank's mother, my brother Frankie, and my brother Stanley's mother. And we lived together with her daughter Barbara and her son Joe Chet. And we were a happy family. My father subsequently met a number of women and eventually met a woman who he married. And at that time, my younger brother Stanley and I were sent away to the Hershey Boys School, Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, against my wishes. I wanted to be maintained with family, but that wasn't to be. And for the next 10 years of my life, until age 18 in 1966, I stayed at the Milton Hershey School for Boys, along with my brother Stanley. My Aunt Anne, who was my second mother and my father's second wife, had disputes, disagreements, and for my life that had been a major problem for me, causing alienation of me from my family, from my father, and from my two brothers. This reunion is very important to me as an opportunity to start again with family. It's going to be growing here with Brett, and we have their family dog Haven, and I look forward to the future to come. Many things happen in life that you can't control, and you wish that you didn't have to go through it. In my case, in retrospect, I'm grateful for having the opportunity to grow up at the Milton Hershey School for Boys, where they provided for all of my needs in terms of clothing, food, shelter. They paid my way through college. They paid my way through medical school. I was the first student who graduated from the Milton Hershey School to enter the College of Medicine, Penn State University College of Medicine in Hershey, PA, where I completed medical school in 1974, then completed a residency in psychiatry. I was chief resident and then assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry. Eventually in 1978, entering a private practice psychiatry in Harrisburg, where for the past 40 plus years I've been doing it and continue to do it. My wife Christine and I have been married since December 20, 1986. Our daughter Mary was born March 19, 1994. My father's second wife, Rhoda, died October 18 of last year, 2018. But this reunion is good as it represents an opportunity to learn from history and to start again more intelligently, moving forward to make change for the better. I'd like my wife Christine Pixie to say hello to you.
Hello, everybody.
And this is my daughter Mary. Well, she's got to speak up.
The other question they wanted me to answer was in relation to that family. That's a really good episode of Friends.
Okay, my father Frank was the third child born to my grandpa John Russek and his second wife Mary Russek. My daughter Mary Teresa Russek, her first name was taken to in honor of Grandma Mary Russek's second wife, to our grandpa John, and her middle name Teresa in honor of my wife Christine's mother's name. Okay. I'm so proud of my daughter and Brett, their relationship as they represent, I feel, opportunity for life moving forward to be filled with happiness, and that they have a supportive, loving family behind them, and have the experiences, I believe, of a lifetime to this point, some of which have been difficult for them, from which they've learned a lot and are making together an ever better life. Mary, why don't you tell the family here something about yourself?
My name is Mary Teresa Russek, and I'm 25. This is my boyfriend Brett, and our dog Haven back here is hanging out. So we live up in Rochester, New York, really right on the border of the U.S. and Canada. I am a school music teacher. I teach strings to grades 1 through 5. And that really all started when I began learning the violin when I was 3 years old. I know a lot of people here know me as Mary that plays the violin, so that's me. I went to the Eastman School of Music. I got a double major in violin performance and music education, and I'm going back there for my master's degree right now while I teach. I think that's everything.
What is it? And very, very proud of our daughter.
Josh and Jay.
I like also to bring to the attention of our family that I have two sons, Joshua, who was born on January 14, 1973, and Jason, born August 15, 1974, who lived in Palmyra, and they had previous commitments such that today were unable to attend. And I have 6 grandchildren, 2 grandchildren born to Jason. Those children are Zandon, who's age 9, and Eden, who is age 11. And their mother, my son Jason's wife, Emily. It's an absolutely beautiful family. I'm so very happy and proud of all that they have done to this point in life, and look to the future being ever brighter. My older son Joshua is married to Lisa, and they have 4 children. Claudia, who is to be age 16 very soon. Raquel, who is age 15. Adriana, who is age 10, and Roman, who is 12. Excuse me, Adriana is age 12, and Roman, who is age 9, 10. I have it marked on bottles, 5-gallon bottles.
We know when their birthdays are.
So I get some help by Siri telling me about birthdays. I'm very, very proud of my sons and their wives as to how they are raising their children. They represent, I feel, the best that I try to be, and my wife Christine and I as parents have been, along with Mary and now Brett as a family. They represent the best and the future. We're very proud of them. They're excellent fathers, and their wives are excellent mothers, and their children are outstanding, beautiful children. Brett, I'm very, very proud of, and tell them something about your history here. Okay. Well, when I first met Brett, we met when Mary brought him to a dinner up in Rochester at the Olive Garden. And from the moment I first met him, I was very proud of him and honored, as he's in the military, in the Army, and is still in. He's completed, I believe, 13 years. 13 years. He's had some harrowing experiences at war in Afghanistan and Iraq. We have 2 tours, 3 tours of duty. Earlier in his career, he was selected from a large number of other military personnel to serve as the honor guard for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C. I believe it was for a year, is that correct? For 2 years. What an honor. What an absolute honor. I'm so very, very proud to have him in my daughter's life and in our family. Haven is a very, very special dog in that she was rescued by Brett and Mary. And when I first saw her approximately a year ago, I can tell you that she looked very, very different than she does now. When I first saw her, she was a very timid, very anxious, very full of fear dog, come from an environment obviously that was very hurtful to her. And my daughter and Brett have taken care of her to the point that I find myself absolutely amazed at the mental health of Haven here. She is a very loving and very caring dog who brings joy to them and to us. I'm very proud to have Haven as part of our family also. Yeah, I want to express my deep appreciation to my cousin David for making it possible for this reunion to occur, as indeed it's created an opportunity for me to meet aunts and others that I thought had died, quite honestly. Today I met Joe Check, who was the son, who is the son of Antoinette Check, who, along with his mother and sister Barbara Check, came to take care of us following my mother's death. And I had not seen him, I believe, since 1955-56, when we were sent to the Milton Hershey School for Boys. Thank you, David, for making this opportunity for me to have a meeting with my family, reconnecting, and looking forward to relationships becoming ever better over time to come.
Thank you, David.
I wish to further express my appreciation to David, my cousin David Russek, son of Tony Russek, for the opportunity to meet my aunts and others who had firsthand knowledge through their experience regarding my real mother, my biological mother, Sophie Andreka, who died in 1952, June 18, 2 days before her 30th birthday. listening to the stories that and Wanda has told me, stories from my Aunt Riri and from Joe Check and others who heard from their parents stories about my mother who died. Really does make me feel very, very close to these family members. I had firsthand knowledge of my mother, Sophie Andreka, who is indeed a major part of this family's in memory. Thank you, David.
So I know we recognize some of the family members were not able to make the reunion. And we've tried to get everybody, try to be inclusive. I think the Aunt Celie, okay, Celie is where on this picture here? It's right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so Aunt Celie is currently still living. So out of this picture, unfortunately your mom has passed, and Mary's passed, and then currently surviving we've got Franny, right? You've got Celie, you've got Aunt Hetty, you've got Ronnie, right? Aunt Ronnie?
Yes.
Okay. And
yeah, that's Aunt Ronnie. You want me to point?
Aunt Ronnie here.
Yeah,
Mark can get kind of a tight shot there. All right. So maybe we can spend a little time on those because those families, because they may not have representation to be able to speak for them. So you, Franny, as the historian, and you, Michaeline, knowing many of these folks as well. Let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about the Kochmars. So that's Celie Kochmar, right?
Right.
And Aunt Celie met George Kochmar. So your sister Celia, met George Kochmar, and they lived in outside of Philadelphia, in the Newtown area, right? Or
in Levittown.
Levittown.
Levittown homes.
Okay.
When they built the Levittown homes.
Okay, and then they had two sons.
They lived in Middleport first.
Oh, they lived in Middleport first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So George and Celia lived in Middleport, and Celia had two children, which were mentioned earlier by Michaeline, which were George and Dennis.
George
okay?
and Dennis, yes.
Right. So I had the opportunity. My daughter Sarah is living down in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I had the benefit of meeting Dennis for the first time. A couple of years ago, we just kind of literally stopped into his
antique
shop, right? And in fact, when you did the filming, when the filming was done by Mark, one of his antiques, the pictures on the wall was actually just came from the antique shop. So Dennis is down there, and then George is down in South Carolina, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and your sister Celia is still living down in South Carolina.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So here's a shout out to the Kochmars.
Good evening. I'm Carl Russek. I am the son of Tony Russek. This is my wife, Ann.
Hello.
And I'm the last person to grow up in this house, actually. My dad, as many will know, was the one who kept up the homestead. He had three sons, Anthony Jr., David, and myself as the youngest. So I was living here up until, roughly 1990, with a short stint after, in the early 90s. So grew up locally, went to Holy Cross School in New Philly, went to Nativity High School, got out, as you do at that age, as quickly as possible, but came back for a while as well. branch of the family. It's interesting since we're the we're the folks who were here. I suppose we had probably the strongest sense of continuity of any of the branches, and that people tended to come back here. As far as favorite Russek family memories and moments, etc. As far as the Russeks go, since this was the homestead, we had a steady stream. Obviously, some people we saw more than others, but people made a regular practice, especially my dad's brothers and sisters, to come by when they could. So we got to see a lot of the cousins. A lot of the cousins have memories, since a lot of them were growing up in suburban areas and the like. Memories of playing in the woods and playing in the creek and playing in the barn and stuff like that, which was just kind of baseline experience for us. So.
My favorite memory is Chacha Franny's coffee cake, and that's really kind of all I have.
Okay. So, what does being a Russek mean to us, other than being descended from a male named Russek? It was a large family. Obviously, there's a lot of the fact that this was the homestead always meant a lot to me. Seeing it was basically the farm my grandfather worked and raised a huge family at, and built multiple generations. That was always very significant to me. I think first kudos for my brother Dave and Carla for putting it together. But also it's great because as the generations go on, people become more distant and people don't know each other nearly as well. So I think it's important just for people to have a sense as they move around the country, where it all started.
Greetings, hi, this is David Russek. Sorry I didn't get a chance to say anything at the reunion. This is my lovely wife Carla, who you all met at the reunion. So we, as you may remember, are part of the Tony Russek Tree. So my dad was Tony Russek, who actually lived at the house in Middleport for many years. So this is a picture of Tony Russek and his father, which is John Russek. And then here's a picture of me at Middleport with my dad, Tony Russek, again, who lived at Middleport for many, many years, up behind the house, which you all remember from the reunion. In Middleport, if anybody took a walk up on the hill in the woods in Middleport, that's him sitting there, or standing there with in his Navy attire with my grandfather in 1940, let me just take a look, 1945, so 4/1/45. All right, when my dad was 20 years old, okay? My dad's holding the picture of him and his father, the one that you saw earlier. So we've got that in the frame. So kind of 3 generations with him holding a picture of his father, John Russek, who had gotten the property back in 1919. Tony Russek married Christine Kaminsky and lived at the house in Middleport for multiple years. And here's a picture of him up at Middleport. And had 3 children. Okay, Tony Russek had 3 children. The first child was Anthony Russek, who is right here. Stage left, this is me as a young tyke. This is Tony Russek, Jr., okay, born in 1961. The older house in Middleport before it burned down, and we rebuilt it, and then pictures there. Here's Tony Russek a little later in life, playing as a musician, and unfortunately Tony was fatally he was killed in walking across the street in California in 1986. Okay, so Tony's no longer with us. All right, so for anybody who has the reunion, you realize it was hot, but it does get kind of chilly. So here's a picture up at Middleport after a snowstorm with 3 feet of snow. Again, here's my dad right here. All right, and Aunt Wanda right there, and myself here. And then the second was myself, David Russek. I live with Carla in Maple Glen, Pennsylvania, a little bit outside of Philadelphia. And we had just gotten married about 6 years ago at this point. And she came up from Brazil. And then after me is Carl Russek, who actually you saw in the reunion segment, right? Again, before, right after. So Carla, I've got 3 children. My children are starting from the oldest, Lauren, who is right here in a wedding photograph. Lauren right there, who actually was in the shot earlier before later coming. Sarah Russek, who is not in the actual video to this now, and she's not with us right now. She's living down in Raleigh, North Carolina. And then Nathan Russek. Nathan Russek is a Eagle Scout. Just got his Eagle Scout, and he's currently attending Penn State University. The 3 of my children, Lauren, Sarah, and Nathan, at one of his birthday parties up in Middleport. And here he is with my mom, Christine Kaminsky, Russek, myself, and then you got Carl Russek there. And I think this is a couple years after my brother Tony passed away, and then my dad with his Legion. He was a Legionnaire for many, many years.
Yeah, I'm Carla Duffy Russek, married to David. My 2 sons who attended the reunion had a really great time. This is a photo of Christian, currently lives in New York City, but born and raised in Brazil. And Tomas, born and raised in Brazil, lives in Philadelphia. They had a really fun time at the reunion. They met 50 brand new family members, and I think it was just a great success. The reunion was so much fun. We all had a great time, and we're just really blessed that we had that chance to have a togetherness and family reunion and walk down memory lane. And we just thank everybody for coming and sharing all the fun and eating pierogies, dancing polka, singing Stolat. It was just a very, very nice time. Probably one of the more special memories for me because I'm a new member to the family Russek, relatively speaking. And I have to say, we had a good time planning this reunion.
Hope everybody had fun.
We really do.
It was a lot of work. It was very hot, but it worked out well.
Yeah, it was a labor of love at certain points, especially as the house was closed for 2 years. And can you imagine all the little critters that decided to take up residency there? But having said that, it was perfectly fitting that this whole reunion should have been in Middleport, where the whole story begins. So, as the song goes, the happy birthday song, 100 years to Middleport, 100 years, and happy birthday to the Russek family, and Stolat, Jabkoyo, and God bless everybody. See you at the next reunion.
So I think one of the other things we're going to talk about here is maybe some of the favorite memories of each of our individual favorite memories. So, Carla just shared a little bit about her memory of the Russek family relative to the reunion. I've got a lot of memories. I had the benefit of living in the house in Middleport, so many memories there. But I think the most fondest memory I think I've had, other than coming down here, we're actually filming today at Aunt Franny Slider's house, which you get to meet in a little bit, and we many memories coming down here and visiting with Aunt Joni, Aunt Franny, and interestingly, many years later, after growing up about an hour and a half from here, I found myself living in this neck of the woods, in this area. So that was interesting. I think the other very interesting family memory was sitting with Frank Russek and Rhoda Russek planning a trip with my father. My father and I went to Poland, and we actually, you'll see this a little bit later, chronicled, or earlier in this video you saw it, the chronicled, the trip and some of the actual pictures from our experience over in Poland. So when we went to Poland, you really got a sense, and hopefully you'll see through some of the pictures, the sense of history relative to my grandfather, Johann, as in not Johann Sebastian Bach, Johann Russek, R-U-S-E-K. So we'll share some of that in a minute. But yeah, it's a lovely way to chronicle the Russek family, and hopefully everybody will be able to continue to share these moments in video and capturing things in addition to pictures. So with that, I'll hand the baton off to the next family member, and appreciate it. Thanks for all the love and joy relative to the Russek family, and keep it going, younger generation. Cheers.
See you at the next
Still on.
reunion.
You left Middleport at what age?
I made after high school and came down to Philly, I stayed with my sister Ann, and I went to Bell Telephone, and they wanted me to come back home, but I didn't want to go back home.
Home is Middleport, up in Middleport.
Home to Middleport, and therefore I went to work at National Biscuit. That is National Biscuit Company, and that is the bakery.
Which now is known as Nabisco, right?
What was that?
Nabisco, right?
Nabisco, yeah, was considered Nabisco, which is, they closed the plant. So, and what do I want to say now?
So when you left Nabisco, how did you end up in Hatboro area? And you met
Oh,
your husband.
I went up when when Nabisco opened up, they did move up to a small area where we call Nottingham. They were at the end of the boulevard, and that's where my husband worked.
And your husband's name was?
And to begin with, I met my husband at National Biscuit. His parents met there also, which was unusual. So,
and his name was your husband's name?
My husband's name is, wait a minute, Robert Slider, and I usually call him Bob. And I can't think.
So when you moved here to Hatboro, you
and then eventually, after we were married and so forth, we decided to move up here into Hatboro near the airport, and it was through my brother-in-law that knew about this area here, that they had homes here for sale. So.
And the airport being the Willow Grove Naval Air Station.
The Naval Air Station.
And Warminster, the Naval Air Development Center.
What was that?
The Naval Air Development Center, right?
Yeah. And
so she was you were really close when all the astronauts were here.
Yes,
in the 50s.
They were over at the other one over in Warminster.
Naval Air Development Center.
Yeah, the air development there.
So you were neighbors with Neil Armstrong and all of the original astronauts in the Apollo missions, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you were also neighbors to one of your siblings, right? Joni lived down the street, right? Aunt Joni.
Aunt Joni.
Right.
Yeah, she lived here. Yeah, is that what
Okay,
you mean?
in this
Yeah.
in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
So now, and you had two children, right?
I had 2 children, Dale.
Dale, who is right
Was-
here. So if you look there, you find Dale right here with the glasses.
And that this was, Randy.
That,
Yeah,
and you got
he's
Randy
the one,
here
yeah.
over
And
on this
actually,
side.
he was killed in a fiery crash.
So Randy was passed away through a fiery crash outside of Philly on the way to Atlantic City, I think, right?
On the way to get.
Yep.
So, other than that, I mean, they're both gone, my family. Both.
So you're the lone survivor in your family.
Right.
You're how old are you now?
I am 93 years old.
Okay. So and you're going to make it to Stolot?
I hope so.
And beyond. So why don't you share with us your fondest memory of the Russek family?
The fondest memory. Well, growing up in the good old days, you enjoyed it, we enjoyed it. We used to walk to school about a quarter of a mile.
And where was school? What school was that?
That was the Middleport School, and it was at the end of the town. And it was on top of the hill. And we went there, and then eventually they closed. I was out of there already.
And that was what year?
What was that?
What year was that?
Oh, God. Right offhand, I can't remember the years.
1937, 38.
So I had to be. What do you usually had it until I went to high school? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I graduated from Blight Township High School in 1944. Yeah.
So growing up in Middleport with the family, clearly there was a lot of family members, right? Who was around at your time frame? Who was around the most? Who was because I had my dad lived up there. Tony Russek
Yeah,
lived
well,
up
I
there.
was Tony.
But who would you grow up? Who were you growing up with?
Well, naturally, I grew up with the up to when it was my turn. I grew up with Uncle Tony up.
Okay.
They were all there, and eventually they left. But after I graduated from high school, that's when I came down to the city to live with my sister Antoinette. And that's when I went to work at Bell and then Nabisco.
Okay. So, do you remember any stories about baking of the bread at the bread oven?
Oh, yeah, well, that was Aunt Jenny, my sister Jenny. She was the one that did all the baking. She used to milk the cows. I would have to hold her tail so it wouldn't hit her in the face. And she made all the goodies. She always made the homemade for Easter. And we made it in the outside oven. And I always remember they also had a record, we always called it the shandy, where they used to keep some of the goodies.
What kind of goodies?
We used to try to get in there when she'd make the candy with the Easter eggs, the covered Easter eggs and so forth. We went up there. So.
And when they break the bread, that was in an outside bread oven.
Outside bread oven. Eventually that fell apart. Eventually.
Now there was still a piece of it there, though. So anybody who was at the reunion, when we sat and ate dinner, the bread oven that was built there was right near the driveway where we sat and ate on the driveway, on the tables. So Jenny would bake the bread in the outside, right?
Right.
And then beyond that, what was beyond that?
And they'd bring it home they'd carry it on a big bench.
Okay.
They used to carry it all home. in, and we all loved that bread. So.
And how about the bee? So beyond there was some bees, right?
Some what?
Some bees. So Pop.
Oh yeah, Pop had the honeybees. He had the whole apparatus. We used to make our own honey. Pop did a lot of that. And he had to get, for himself, he had a bad stomach. He had to get a goat. So we had to have a goat
for goat's milk,
for the
right?
milk, yes, which helped him very much. And Mom, naturally, Mom was busy from morning till night with our big family, naturally. And there were always seemed to be 3 at home. And when we went to work, we went to school, there was always seemed to be 3 young ones below me. I was around the middle. So.
And who was the troublemaker? Which Russek was the troublemaker?
Oh, we all kind of got along, but we still. And we always made sure Pop would always get us into the dining room by the picture, holy picture, and we'd say our prayers every night. And that was a must. Every night we went, said our prayers, and we went to bed. And actually when that one pole or something got loose on the porch, we all ran away and we all were afraid to come back home. So eventually that was taken down naturally as the time went on. Everything got old.
But the Russek name doesn't get old because there's plenty of Russeks that are living off the tradition.
Plenty around to go around. Not many boys to keep the name, but intermarriages. So.
And what do you think it means to be a Russek?
I think it was great. I enjoyed it. Big family or not, we had one up there. They had 18 children. So, and. But we enjoyed it. It was a time of life. You had no choice. You did what you could. So we used to go from the hill down from the house. I used to take a shovel and sit on it for a sled. So they did have a sled, but they put it away. They were always afraid of somebody running down and getting hit by the car because it was going by a regular route that ran through the little towns and so forth.
All right, and how about swinging on the vines? What's the story with the swinging on the vines?
And behind, up above the house by the breaker, we used to swing on those vines. And other than that, we enjoyed it. I enjoyed life when we talk about our memories. So.
And you think it's important to keep the memories alive?
We sure will. Hope the family keeps them up. So.
That sounds like a call to action on the part of the family there, right?
Yes. We had our bathrooms outside also. We had no choice.
And you didn't have any cell phones, you didn't have any television, and none of that, right?
No, nothing. Eventually, it came to life at the end. We all went away. And we'd come back home. And then eventually, after Pop passed away, Mom moved into town, the first house right in Middleport. And she stayed there quite a few years, so eventually we got her to come down to Philadelphia, or mainly Warminster. She stayed with my sister, Joan. And then Joan eventually moved to Florida. So Mom came here. She didn't want to go. So she became a member of my family. So
Grandma Russek stayed at this house in Hatboro.
yeah, she stayed mainly here, and till her death in I think that was 1949. I can't even remember the date.
Well, I think she passed away maybe like 89, I think.
Yeah, 89, that's
89,
right. It was 89, yeah.
So.
See, I
Okay.
should have had my thing written down, but
Okay.
that's what I was looking for on my papers, you know. So,
Okay, well, we're gonna have a little section. We'll do that a little bit later, but I think that was great. So
Good.
thank you so much. So then I guess we have Ronnie.
Ronnie,
Aunt Ronnie.
yes.
All right. So Ronnie.
She's in a home up in Oakland, New Jersey.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she's in a
Yeah.
kind of a nursing home.
Yes.
She's older or younger than you are?
Yes, yes.
She's younger?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But only by a couple of years, so she's got to be in her 90s?
About 3 years.
90, so she's in
Yeah.
90. So, and Ronnie had married Marty?
Marty Kowalczyk.
Okay, all right. And then Marty and Ronnie had how many children?
They had, wait a minute, I can't think of their names right off. Karen, it lives in, I believe she's in Alabama. Oh, what the heck? Don't you remember their names?
I remember Karen.
So
Because
Karen?
Karen was at my wedding.
Well, I know them, but, isn't this awful? I can't.
So here's a call out to anybody who's putting this in a family reunion type of tree structure that we need to make sure we fill out the rest of the Kowalczyk family. Marty, it was Marty. I remember there was a son.
Oh, come on, Freddie, my mind went blank.
So okay, well we'll have to make sure we fill out the Kowalczyk. Or here's a shout out and a hope that the Kowalczyks will go ahead and help us fill in some of the branches of the tree.
I'm Sandy Cahill, and I am Wanda's daughter. She is the 7th member of the family of John and Mary Russek. There were 14 children, and she's right there, right in the middle. And she definitely, I'm sure, has a lot of good memories growing up in this area. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
you did with the kitchen. Remember, you talked about the kitchen yesterday and Grandma cooking.
I told you gotta keep talking. Well, this just brings back a lot of memories. So I can't talk.
It's okay.
You
It's
can say
all
it
right.
on there.
It's okay. It's all right. Anyway, Grandma and Grandpa brought everyone up in a house here, which the original house burnt down. And it was rebuilt here, but it was on the exact same property. And they had a lot of memories here. And Mom was very, very close to Uncle Tony and Aunt Chris after he married Aunt Chris and the whole family. And Aunt Franny, one of the older sisters, she remembers a lot more than a lot of us do. And she's going to be 93 very soon. Coming up here, we have a lot of good memories with Uncle Tony going through the property. Kelly?
Yeah, we started coming up here when we were little. Every time we'd go to visit Aunt Franny, we would take a drive up here. It's about an hour and a half from where they live outside Philadelphia. I remember hiking in these woods a lot as a young kid, and there used to be an outhouse down in the back that my grandma actually remembers going to before they had indoor plumbing. And back when it was too cold, she used to tell us stories they had to use the chamber pot in their room, which I just thought was hysterical because they had so many people sharing one room. I couldn't even imagine doing that inside the house at night. So we had so much fun with Aunt Chris and Uncle Tony. We came up here, like I said, a lot. They were always really welcoming and were happy to sit down here in this room actually and get out all the scrapbooks and talk about all our family memories, people we may not have met yet or had passed away. Some which we knew, we laughed, seeing everybody about 30 or 40 years younger. So, and then we try to pass on what Polish traditions we can. And so my sister over here, Kristen, tries to pass them down to her two kids. So, go ahead. Maybe some of the traditions you try to pass down?
Well, Grandma always taught us to say dupa and bushi, which we tell to our kids. And I'm Kristen. I'm Sandy's daughter, Sandy and Tim's daughter. And this is Hannah. She's 4. Jack, unfortunately, did not make it because he's having a little tantrum. But what do we say?
What's our favorite?
How do you say kiss in Polish?
What do you say?
Dupa.
Oh, that's your butt.
That's your dupa. That's
What do you
your
say?
dupa.
What's your
Give me a
What does Grandma say to you? Give me a bushy.
Fuzzy.
Bushy.
And what's this called?
But.
No.
No. What do you call it?
That's called your dupa. Right? Right.
That's right. That's right.
That's Polish.
Right. And a lot of times with the Russek family, we had a lot of reunions at Aunt Franny's house. Aunt Franny's house in Hatboro, Pennsylvania is probably the meeting place for all of us. We came up here quite often, but not everyone did. So when everyone got together and we celebrated Grandma's birthday, which was the girl's great-grandmother, we were always at Aunt Franny's. There were usually a lot of people there. You wouldn't remember that, Hannah, because you were not born. But Aunt Kelly would remember. Kristen, I'm not too sure about that. Tim would remember Aunt Franny's because Tim had actually never been up here before.
Nope, first time.
And but there's so many of them. It's hard to say one memory of one particular person. Is there a memory that you can remember with one of your sisters or brothers that comes to mind?
With your mom and dad?
With your mom and dad?
I remember the boys when they would get angry and Pop would get after them and run them around the house outside.
What did he use?
Chase them around
Did
the
he
house.
Did he get a paddle out or something?
No, he just ran after them. And they knew it was trouble. That was really a memory. Not that it was a good one, but it was a memory.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right. But there's just, Tim, is there anything that you can remember? We've been married for 42 years.
Well, this is my first time up here, but all your family, we had a big family reunion at our house back in the 90s down in Virginia Beach. I don't know, there was probably 100 people plus there.
Yes.
And from all the different trees. And of course, we live in Florida now, so there's lots of the Walsh tree or the Walsh tree is there. And then, of course, Don and Gary Bird from the Moore Tree. And so, so there's a lot of us down in Florida now. Okay.
Well, everyone tries to stay in touch with each other, but there's a lot of people here that I have not seen in years at all. But the one thing we did learn, haven't we? You've grown up learning? What dance have you learned growing up?
Tap and ballet.
Okay.
What did you learn for the party?
For the party. What have you been practicing for the party?
Polka.
Polka. Very good. Very good.
So she wants to say something about Mom. She asked. What did you want to say?
What do you want to say?
She does good things to me, and I love her so much. And I can't remember what else I said.
It's okay. That was very.
That was great.
That was very.
And I love her so much, and she's the bestest mom ever. And I hope she sings songs to me, and she also be nice to me.
Okay. Hannah, that was lovely.
That was perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Hannah.
And what does a Russek mean to all of us? It means family.
Yes, family.
Family. It means being a part of a
Very
large
big
family.
Very big
Very
family.
large family. And I know Grandma. I never knew my grandfather, but I know Grandma would have loved it. And Uncle Tony
Would love it.
would have loved that we were all here doing this. How about you, Hannah?
Anything else?
I also love her so much.
I know, that is so sweet.
I give her hugs, and when I'm also at somewhere, I always give her big hugs.
Okay.
That's very nice, Hannah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
That is really sweet. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
You can give hugs.
Is that
All right,
okay?
there we
Thank
go.
you.
Good.
Hi, my name's Eric Leslie. This is my wife, Julie Firth. I, Eric Leslie, am the son of Mrs. Josephine Russek, who is the daughter of John Russek, who came from Poland, who built this house here in 1919. One memory I can talk about with my mother that she remembers clearly is one time he was driving in the truck and they forgot that she was in the truck down by the barn. And when she was down by the barn, she was locked in, and she said, "Tee-wee, Tee-wee." That was her sister Celie. And Sister Celie remembers that vividly, that Josephine, my mother, was asking for her in that way. Other memories of my mother in the family, I don't have many. I never saw my grandfather ever. Grandfather John Russek. Grandmother Russek I used to see at Aunt Franny's house. Aunt Franny is where my grandmother, and I don't even remember, her name was Mary, stayed, and I remember Mary knew me very, very little. She couldn't remember who was who. I think there was so many grandchildren at that point. What can I say about my mother? My mother married a man named John Leslie. That would be my father. John Leslie was an electronic engineer and worked for NASA for most of the years of my memory. And my mother, my father was an alcoholic, and a pretty bad one at that. And my mother a few times tried to get away from this man, but never did. Eventually he left the picture, and my mother ended up working at the telephone company and making a good, being as best of a mother as she could be for the rest of us kids. Now, I have two sisters. One of them is Carol, who's 6 years older than me, and the other one is Debbie, and she's 7 years older than me. Debbie works nowhere right now. She's retired. She worked for the government, and my sister Carol worked for the government. She's the only one out of our family who had a child, and that child would be Jacqueline. Carol has a child named Jacqueline who's 26 years old now. What else can I say? I, Eric, ended up struggling with drugs and alcohol from the time I was, 15 years old, and got sober at 26 and did well for myself after that. I'm trying to think, what else can I say here? Got your branch of the family. How many generations? Again, so I am 2 generations removed from the person who built this house, and again, my mother was his daughter. Famous Russek family memories. I don't have many. I remember living. Now this is something. So when our whole family was moving from California, this is in 1972, when we're from California, we moved out to the East Coast, but before our house was ready, we had a whole summer to waste, And so we lived at every person's house. We lived here with Tony. So I got to know Carl and David, who were Tony's kids. Carl, David, and Tony, and what's his name? What's the other?
The third brother.
David. Carl, Tony, and David. Got to know them. And then I also got to know Kevin and Michelle because we stayed at their house. I got to know Carrie and Dawn, who were Hetties. So Hetty is the daughter of John Russek as well. And I've got to know them. And so the whole summer we stayed with people. We stayed with Uncle Joey, another Uncle Joey. We stayed with Aunt Rhonda. We stayed with Aunt Franny. Now, Randy's deceased. He died in a car accident. That is Aunt Franny. That's Aunt Franny's son, who was my age. I guess David and Carl would probably take care of the other part of this. I don't know. I think that's. Is there anything else I missed, Sharon? What does being a Russek mean to you? I don't know that I have any answers for that. I don't think it means much. I'm just a member of the family, and I decided to come here, and I was glad I did. Anything else that I remember that's... No, I think that's it. Thanks.
Would you like to add anything?
Sure. I met Josephine later, maybe 20 years ago. She loved to dance. She liked to polka. She loved to do her hair. She totally cared about the front lawn. The front lawn was totally little. It was like as big as, a third of this floor. But she made sure every single blade of grass was perfect. It was nature to her. When she was dancing, she was always smiling. And I think Eric being a Russek means he's proud of being Polish. Some people aren't proud of it, but Eric's always proud of being Polish. Also, Eric has lots of relatives, and so he takes it for granted, whereas I only have one first cousin in America. So he takes it for granted that he has lots and lots of relatives, and if you need, I know that Eric enjoyed visiting his relatives when he was a kid. He's told me that. What else? Just that he knows his roots are here in this area. Yesterday when we were walking around, he was so excited by the area. Oh my gosh. He was like, wow, 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 look at this, look at that, look at the green, look at the leaves, look at how old these buildings are, look at how the paths are here. He was as excited as someone going to Paris. So, do you want to talk about going to Florida? Did you ever go to Florida? Or visiting your other relatives?
I went to Florida once to visit. I got sent there before I had to go back to school, and I stayed with Uncle Joey. And I also stayed, is that it? I stayed with Uncle Joey for a couple of weeks. And his wife Riri, who's downstairs, Aunt Riri and Uncle Joey, they play music. I'm sure if Brenda comes up here, Brenda's my cousin, she'll talk about Joey and his music.
How old are you?
I'm 56 years old now. And that's it. I work as a chief of social work at a state hospital in California. My mother was an operator at Contel until she retired. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
So I want to
one last thing. My mother used to complain a lot. She liked to complain and be negative. And sometimes it got irritating because I always had to hear it. I didn't leave home till I was 43 years old till we started dating, a couple years after we started dating. And but is there anything else I can say about my mother? I think she had anxiety. She had some anxiety, probably from living with my father for so long. She was a nervous wreck, and our whole family was. We didn't know, you wouldn't know what would happen one day from the next in the family because of it. And it affected all of us kids as we grew up. I mean, all of us dealt with it in a different way. But really, we came out, all of us dealt with it in the way we could. And we dealt with it quite well, I think, all of us, in our own way. we dealt with it.
And his mother didn't drive until, like, the kids were like 20.
Yes.
So it was complete dependency. And I think the mother tried to get away from the father and come twice and come up here and be with the families.
One time,
and I'm not sure
when
how
I was
appreciative
9
they
months,
were.
one time when I was 9 months old, not sure it was
Oh,
appreciative.
yeah.
Come on.
Oh.
When I was 9 months old, I was brought up here, and all of us were, but I stayed with another family. I mean, and they weren't a bad family, but we stayed all around with and then another time we tried to get away from what?
Yeah, when he was 9 months old, he was just brought up here, and then his family left without him.
No, they were in the area, but I didn't stay with my mother. And my father was out of the picture. My mother was trying to get away from him. And that's it, really.
But thanks very much for having this family reunion. It's really nice. It's amazing. And David came to our wedding. We went to David's wedding. And David came to his mother's funeral. And we really appreciate that.
Okay, my name is Russek. I was married to Joseph Russek, which was the fourth, the youngest male of the family, the original family. We did 20 years of country service. We were in the Navy. He retired as a chief petty officer. We have Brenda is my daughter, and we have four other siblings, another girl and 3 boys. And that's just about it. Yet, any other question?
Do you have a memory from the past that you want to share? Something, your favorite memory?
Yeah, favorite memory of this, it was, I won't tell you just part of it. I got married here in that little church in town. And then we went from here to the Pocono Mountains, and we went through Hershey Rose Garden, and I almost fainted how beautiful and wonderful it is. And about the family, if I run for office, just with their votes, I'll get elected. It's a big family.
Very big family. I'm Brenda. I'm the oldest daughter. My little sister is Teresa. We have 3 older brothers, Joseph Russek III, Jeffrey Frank Russek, and Howard Anthony Russek. I'm Brenda Lynn Russek is my maiden name, now Stanislaw. And my little sister is Teresa Marie Russek. Favorite memories would be listening to my dad play piano. Gives me goosebumps to this day, although he's passed away, I think we're on to 4 years.
5 years ago, 2014, okay. February the 10th, 2014.
My mom is a beautiful singer, and they had a band together. My brothers also played in the band. Joseph did. He played the drums. Jeff played the bass guitar.
He played bass guitar and drums also.
And I found out that Howie is a really good singer too. I heard him sing.
And he's a genius on guitar solos.
Yeah.
He is.
Other favorite memories would be the travels we had. One I'll never forget from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Dad took us all out on, I got them to say, a little miniature yacht because we all fit in it. Took us down the coast from Virginia Beach down to Miami. It was quite an adventure.
Right after he retired.
I did a lot of fishing on that adventure. And I think by the time we settled in Florida, I had a deeper tan than the Florida kids there. So that was going into the 4th grade, I believe. So that was, always loved boats. And happy to be part of that, for sure. Seeing people travel as far as they have from California is just amazing, from Florida. Seeing the connections through Ancestry. And I didn't do, is it Me 23 or something? Is that right? But there's other ones that it's just a tremendous connection. And finding out that we like the same things, although we've never met before. So
I found that to be, I think, a lot of fun. What did you think, Mom?
Well, it was an adventure. Let me
yeah.
say that.
Yes.
I raised you all
I
together.
know.
Yeah, especially for me. But it was a good adventure too. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And this family is just like if anything happened to any of us, the other ones will actually peel the skins up to resolve it. So it's a good family. It's a real family.
Very good family. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kevin Walsh. So happy to be here. And I'm son of Joni Walsh. Is my sister Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle, and this is my daughter, Sierra Walsh-Keough. And
This is my wife Teresa.
you guys are, oh, hi.
Yes.
And that's Carla. Hi. What can we do for you, Carla?
Nothing, I'm just chilling.
Okay.
Hey, we have a few memories I'd like to share with you. My sister's best at that than I am, better than that than I am. However, I'm going to tell you one story I do remember about Grandma. The teetotaler said she never drank, but lied to us for all these years. She always had a shot of rocket rye for dinner every day for 10 years in our house while she stayed there. So we need to know, the whole family needs to know that. She'd just sneak up before dinner, grab a shot of rocket rye, and then come down for dinner every time. What's some of your stories, Michelle?
Well, if we would like to stick on the subject of rock and rye, rock and rye actually used to go into Grandmom's armoire where they didn't have closets in the day, so the top shelves was brought back the memory when it was over at my cousin's house, Dawn, who is Hetty's daughter, and Hetty is the youngest, Hedwig, I believe, that they go, and Joni, my mother's real name, is Johanna, and apparently she did not like the Polish version of her name, so she had actually gone to Joanne for quite so many years in her yearbook I seen. Then she became Joni Walsh. So she renamed herself, and there was a discrepancy because the church burned down with her birth certificate. So we weren't really sure of her age. Upon death, we went with the one number that she was going with.
Which is a wise idea.
Yes, and she was 36 for many years, as far as you remember
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Every year was 36. But yeah, so on the subject of rock and rye, I got to partake in that rock and rye because it came with candy. So I was the girl that would be able to go upstairs with Grandmom and help her down the stairs when it was time to make an appearance for dinner and whatnot. But it was actually more than just dinner time with rock and rye.
Oh, well, there you go.
And my mother, I got to do Grandmom's babka, as we say in Polish. I got to do her family history because she would sit there and tell me the stories of everybody. I just always would sit next to her on this leopard chase chair, and she would tell me all the stories about the grandkids. And at that time, she told me, I think I was about age 8, possibly 10 years old, about her being a bootlegger. And in this house, there was, up in the woods, there was a still that she made and with her husband, John, and he had the coal breaking business, so they would actually, I found out through David, they put the hooch into the coal and delivered it to all the people that were in need of a beverage at that time that was illegal. So,
Well, kind of illegal, but go ahead.
okay. And she actually thought it was funny. The big story was that there was no running water in this house, so there was a big tub, and that's where they would keep all the bottles of the liquor that were going to be taken out of the house. That's where she would hide them, where they kept water in there. So as the youngest children were in the house, as she was getting raided at that time, because it was illegal to have that, so she would just throw a couple of little kids, undress them, and throw them in there where she thought it was so funny. And she would do this. This is her funny. And she always had a napkin rolled up in her hand, so there was napkins all over our house, if
That's
you remember.
true, yeah.
Always had a sweater on. We only had her in one pantsuit once, just my mom talked her into, but always dress, stockings, and her slippers was the attire. She actually looks more like, I would say, Wanda and Celie and Veronica. My mom actually looked like Pop, and we kind of went from there. Kevin's supposed to be pretty much looking like Pop, just from what we know. But yeah, so that was the story on the rock and rye. Grandma, we were very fortunate, lived with us from the time I was 3 years old for myself, so
To 13 or something.
till we moved to Florida at 13, and she was supposed to join us, and for some reason she she went to Franny's just to go to Hetty's house, and she decided never to leave Franny's, but she never did show up in Florida, which She actually
Right.
changed the course of my life because I was so used to Grandma being there.
Well, she used to always catch me doing everything. I hated that.
Yeah.
She'd always catch me. Everything I did wrong, she'd catch me. She was pretty sharp with that. A smart lady there. But I also remember this house, before it burnt down, the old house, and playing up here is really a treat. We used to go there and play in the woods. We're used to mountains where we were from, and towards Philadelphia. So this place is always cool. Carl was always a nut. Carl, you were a freaking nut when you were a kid.
Remember he broke the
Yeah.
glass in our bar? He just
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, Carl hates glass.
Tony's a smart ass like me, and Dave was a smart one. He still is. Dave might be the smartest of all of us. So, but anyway, yeah, a lot of good times at this house, and we really appreciate the great
And Chris
job.
was fabulous.
And Chris, sure. What a great job they did by getting this thing all together, and we appreciate it, guys. Very nice. So hopefully our place in Florida next time.
Oh.
Anything you want to say there, woman? Did we tell the Gawonki story? She tried to make Gawonki for us. She was trying to impress my mother, I think, one time. She tried to make Gawonki. Yeah, she tried to make Gawonki. My dad bit into it and had about 13 sticks in his mouth. So what the heck is this? We use the sticks to keep the Gawonki together. If you make it, the toothpicks to keep the Gawonki together. My dad said, "Woman, is there anything left in a redwood forest after you get done with this?" So yeah, we have a few stories like that, but what a great time being here. We really appreciate it. CC might have something to say.
A little story about Joni, my grandmother. I'm Michelle's daughter again, but when I was a little girl, my grandmother, I don't know if bangs were the big thing in the family, but she was very persistent on keeping bangs on me, so I would try to run away from her in the house, and she would chase after me. And she wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. She was a very strong woman, very persistent woman. So needless to say, I had bangs for a very long time in my childhood. So that was one of my fond memories of Grandma. She was she always got what she wanted, Grandma Joni. And I always wanted to be like my older cousin Samantha, because my Uncle Kevin and Aunt Terry have 2 children, Sammy and Brandon, and Brandon's my age, 10 days apart, and Sammy's 3 years older than
Your
us.
twin.
Yep, the 2 redheads of the family. But Sammy always had long hair, and she didn't usually have bangs, so I always wanted to look like Sammy. So I finally got what I wanted, and as you can see, we still don't have bangs. So. Love you, Grandma.
Yeah, one more last thing I got to say about Mom is she was very persistent. A bulldog. We learned a lot from her. I actually got to appreciate her a lot more afterwards, actually, a lot of times too, because everybody came up to me and she'd be pretty blunt with you. If you were fat, she'd tell you you're fat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's but she said it away. It was like, she's quite the woman. Actually got more after I thought about it. Actually sat back and time to think about it. We're very lucky to have the people we did to raise us. So, hey, Russeks, as we said before, wow, what a great job! What a great job you did raising us to be such great people.
You guys made some champions. We put the fun in dysfunction.
Yay!
Kevin and I do have a song that we were taught.
The Viva. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Viva, viva, you she jammy, jackalenda, yaku yammy.
And that's all we
I'm
remember.
done. All right, that's it.
Besides the Bobby Vinton song. Thank you all.
I think we're out for 5 minutes. Nice talking to you. Peace out, baby.
All right, and then you have Hetty, right? So Hetty and Keith. So we're going to try to give Hetty a quick call here to see if we can have her say a couple of words.
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah. And
yeah,
Kate,
so Hetty, you had Hetty.
Dawn is her daughter, and her son,
Carrie.
Carrie,
Yep,
yeah.
Carrie. Carrie had passed away, unfortunately.
Passed away, yes.
And Dawn was not able to make it to the reunion, and unfortunately Keith had just passed away a couple weeks before.
She just lost her husband, and her birthday is October 8th.
Oh boy.
That's the upcoming birthday for
yes,
Hetty.
and she'll be 83, yeah.
Okay.
83, yeah.
So, if you can start rolling again. And then Michaeline's holding up pictures of Hetty. We just tried her on the phone. Unfortunately, we were not able to get a hold of her to bring her into this capturing the video. But Hetty is still living in New Jersey, right?
Willingboro.
Willingboro, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I think that we should have. I think we got everybody, right? We got Ronnie, Hetty,
Yeah, the ones that we
Franny,
didn't
Tony,
get, yeah.
Joe, Johnny was there.
Antoinette.
Antoinette, yeah, we had Antoinette. Frank, we had Frank Russek. We had Eddie. We also had Eddie, not knowing if he had you know, I'm sure he brought up his brothers and sister. So Frank Russek family, you had Frank Russek Sr., and then you had Junior, right? Frankie Jr.
Frankie
You
Jr.
had Stanley out in Colorado. And then you had Eddie, of course,
Eddie,
who was at the
yes.
reunion. Thanks for that. And then you had...
Oh, well, he was at the...
Yeah,
he
was at the
was
reunion.
up there.
Yeah. And then you had Angel, right?
Yeah.
Angel. Okay. Yep, so I think we're good. So we got everybody represented. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Glad we were able to continue the capturing of memories here for the family Russek Tree. All right.